on this. So tell us more about, what you're working on, Ariana.
I submitted the LOI last week, I believe, and then they came back with a counter.
Awesome.
And so then I countered that one, and now we're waiting.
Awesome.
So I submitted about Friday afternoonish. So I was hoping to hear something today because they countered pretty quickly. Now they were looking at 3.3-ish, and so I came at like 2.4. They totally turned down the seller financing stuff. So, and this was the one that they pitched they wanted to sign a 20-year absolute triple net.
Wow.
They do own the building. I think they're just looking for cash. And Zane and he did tell me that I've missed a few calls because it's like the summer and it's getting crazy with the girls. Um, but I'm seeing what they're going to come back with the counter. And I did like the advice, like put it some money and make them put some money in escrow. So that way they just don't bounce on us or me when the deal's closed.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's great. That's
glad.
exciting. I mean, an absolute net lease. I mean, you could amortize that thing out over 20 years and you own that building free and clear when that lease ends. And have you, I mean, I haven't looked at the LOI or anything, but have you discussed like even having options in there to like for another 5 or 10 years on top of the 20-year net?
No. So right where we're at is I'm waiting on to see if they come back with the counter that I presented with them. And then from there, we're gonna maybe talk lease and maybe I can sit down with you and kind of pick your brain to see what you think about that if they come back, and like I still need to, once they come back, obviously the due diligence I'll go look for financing,
Sure.
and go from there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'd recommend while you're back and forth like that, go meet with the local bank down the street and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Start figure out also too if there is debt on the building already, who they are mortgaged with,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. We've said that before, but that's just another thought to have. So
Okay.
awesome. Well,
Great.
that's great. Congratulations on that. Sounds like you're getting a lot closer, which is awesome.
Yeah, the process, it's been really interesting learning and like really understanding the pro forma. That's been super helpful
Yeah.
once I'm through the process. Because at first it's just like numbers, but now that I'm putting things where they need to go, that was super helpful.
Well, it gives you, like I said a second ago, it gives you confidence when you're like, okay, I punch this number here, and you know how it's going to change that variable over there. And
Right.
you're like, wait a minute, okay, now I see the correlation there, and then it just like, wait, now I can make this offer based on me understanding this particular piece of the pro forma, which gives you more strength to negotiate because you understand what you're actually presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
100%.
That's awesome to hear. That's great. Um, Awesome. I also see that Mac is on here too. I just said hello to JP. Mac, give us kind of the 30,000 foot view of you, man. And we're excited to have you.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, man. Good, man.
And hi to everybody. So on this group today, and so far so good. Because today I spent the whole day like I was learning the materials or and everything. There are a lot of terms. So like only one thing. So I have a big problem with it. It was like at the homework because for some reason I don't know if it's like at the page. With me and JP because we're not on the same like a place, and it was kind of difficult. But so far, so I'm learning. So I'm getting like closer.
Good, good. Happy to
Yeah.
hear that you just keep moving the ball down the field. Like again, Rome wasn't built in a day. I say the same thing every time. You can't build a skyscraper without having a great foundation. You got to go
That's
down
good.
before you go up. Um,
It's really interesting.
Good, good. Well, keep moving that thing forward. I wanted to also congratulate. I see Connor is on here today too. Connor and I bought a building yesterday together. And Connor, I'd like if you're on here, if you can, if you're on or just listening or whatever, I'd
Yeah,
like
I'm
you to
here.
kind of give the quick synopsis of like the effort and the time, and not to mention gave you zero because Connor's my brother. I gave him zero. He didn't get any freebies. Let's just say that. So Connor, if you don't mind, I thought it was great, but like kind of give us the whole spiel real quick on like how you went from where you started to like literally closing a commercial property.
Yeah, sure. Well, sorry if I'm like out of breath. I just finished up a run before hopping on here. Just try to get a little workout before. But no, this has been such a long time coming. I feel like I have lived three lives since we started this process. Um, we, submitted an LOI back in, gosh, January or February, and then have been under contract since then, and then closed yesterday, and then seller docs came through today. Still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know. The broker on the other end was just terrible to work with, and so just have the feelings they would come back with some stupid. But I have learned a lot since starting being part of the collective. I had the opportunity to go to the summit last year, and that's where I really was sold on the group. And so joined that, didn't really do much until I kind of like, it was about New Year's time. And I was like, I really want to come up with some resolutions. I really want to, use this group to the fullest advantage that I can. And I was like, also don't want to waste my money. So decided I'm going to buy a building this year. And, I learned a lot throughout the whole process. I worked with my brother Parker on the original pro forma, and then we even reviewed it all on this call a few months ago together, and I got some really good feedback. So I don't know. Nolan, is there any particular question you think you want an answer to? But I mean, I'll just say I'm pretty sure I lost about 10 years off my life. But I'm happy. I'm happy it's over, but I'm happy we've got it.
Yeah.
So,
No, it was just a great experience, I'd say, for somebody like Connor who's new. I mean, I called him this morning and just was like, dude, congrats on like the effort, the time, the work, because what we're all doing right now is very uncommon. Like everyone can buy a single family at $40,000 house and slap a Section 8 tenant in there with some lipstick. Like that's not difficult to do. Buying commercial property, $1 million building, a warehouse with seller financing, and having a local bank finance the first position is difficult. It's hard to do. So the fact that Connor did it, I thought I just congrats. I was like, Connor, you should be proud of yourself, man. And that's kind of what we're all chasing, is just like, doing something that's hard, because once you do one of them, that's when the momentum begins to go. Like Ariana said a second ago, she submits a LOI, she understands the pro forma, they respond back. Now you're getting you're 90% of the way there when you got somebody to respond to your LOI at that point. Like you're really only, I mean, it's like the last 200 meters of a mile race. Literally, you're like right there. So I wanted to congratulate Connor. I thought it was great. So before we jump into kind of our guest tonight, does anybody have like a big thought or question or anything before we get moving towards this evening's presentation or thoughts?
I do have a question on behalf of another member
Yeah.
that couldn't make it tonight. So he's working on a deal. He's trying to raise money for it. It's not a huge deal, but it's a really good deal. And his biggest hang up is the bankers wanting the investor, who's also a part of the group, to sign on the debt because they own, 20% or more of the equity in the property. So is that a problem that you've run into in the past or that you've tackled in the past? And could you shed some light on that?
So basically asking if a partner is going to be having, if there's an entity that's 100% and one partner has more than 20% of the entity, they want that borrower to be on the personal guarantee. Is that accurate?
Yeah, or that investor to be part of like the borrowing party, like to be signing on the debt.
Ranking the debt, does it make better terms? Hang on, let me close this door. My kids are coming home. Hang on.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because my opinion would be is the investor, does he have, is he against signing on the dotted line? Like what's his biggest hang up with that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that could be the case. I'm not even sure, to be honest. But let's say he is maybe against it, just to be conservative here. And then would that be like the only option, or is that a common hang up for banks to lend the money on? Or is that kind of like uncommon for banks to do?
I would say two answers. The first answer is, I think the individual needs to get over himself. I don't know who this person is, obviously. It's more about, and I actually genuinely mean that, I don't even know who you're talking about. So they need to get over themselves and thinking that I'm too high and mighty to personally guarantee debt. I've guaranteed millions of dollars of debt, not in an arrogant sense, but just in like a matter of fact way. And guaranteeing debt is actually not that big of a deal. I've spoken with my banker about it, like off the record. And he's like, let me just be clear with you, dude. A guarantee is literally a word on a page. Like it is a word on a page. There's not a whole lot of strength behind it other than the 50 pages of documents you sign on a mortgage. If you buy $1 million building and you have the seller leave 25% in the deal, and then the mortgage is $750,000, the bank will they begin the auction at $750,000, right? And some guy out of California comes in and buys that building for 750, you are now off the hook. There's zero recourse at that point. So a personal guarantee doesn't have a whole lot of strength anyway, because the more that the seller finances, or candidly, the more equity that you bring to the deal, then the less risk that you have. So that's why having the seller in a second position, honestly, you're reducing your risk like down to almost zero at that point. Especially if you're buying a good building, you buy something that's worth $1.5 million and you bought it for $1 million. They start the auction at 750. Some guy comes over the top and buys it for $1 million. Well, then the seller even gets his money back, right? So personally guaranteeing debt to me, and I'm beside myself on this, but is very, very small risk in my book. Second of all, too, and my kid is in the other room. Hang on, buddy. Sorry, guys. My
It's all
little,
good.
yeah, you can hear it. But the second of all, too, I'm thinking about the bank, and if they're only looking for one banker, and the one bank is saying you can or can't do that, I think you go and look for a new bank. I think you try and shop more debt instead of just thinking that there's only one guy out there for this deal. I'm looking for 3 or 4 different guys to send me term sheets.
Hmm.
So that's just my opinion. At least that's the way that I try and approach it, I guess.
No,
But
that's good. Yeah, I think that will answer the question for him, and I'll just relay that information.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. All right. Hang on, guys. 1 second here. I apologize. Okay. All right. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on in. You can say hey to everybody. I usually do these at my office for this exact reason, because this guy is a crazy boy. He's a terrorist. So, apologize. This is Pryor. Can you say hi to everybody?
Hey, Pryor.
Say hey. You know Zane.
Hey, Pry Bear.
Say hey. So, okay. So now that we got all that, does anybody else have any questions before we kind of jump into the next kind of stem that I'm actually really excited about? Anybody else have a thing before we get moving?
Hey, Nolan, I had a
Hey,
really
Jen.
quick
Yeah.
question for you
Yeah.
guys. I apologize. I'm kind of doing a hectic thing with my kid too right now.
Sure.
But the I have this interesting property that I've been looking at. It's basically 3.5 acres. It's beautiful location. The land itself is worth about $1 million over here in the Charlotte area. But the one thing that's kind of been holding off a little bit people is basically a owner that's selling it. Owner operator is selling the thing. Has been in business there for maybe 20 some odd years. Anyways, he's got it a little overpriced, but one of the things that's kind of been interesting, he has about half of the thing is a whole laydown yard. It's 10,500 square feet. The other half is almost laydown yard, but it actually has some old detention requirement that was in there back in the 90s. Talked to the local city water sewer type area, and they said that as long as it's you do maintenance to it, like refresh the gravel and stuff, and possibly even concrete over it, then you really don't have to come back and deal with the new updated requirements for the detention pond. So I was just kind of curious, from your perspective, is that something that you would or even recommend or looked in the past, that getting into those things, or would those be almost like a little bit too much of a red flag, questionable areas that you would try to avoid?
Two questions on that I would respond with is I would ask first if there's a phase 1 that's been completed, just to get an environmental study, because especially if there's sewer, there's things like that. But there's also things called a super fund, and that's like a government sponsored entity that just goes around and looks at, dirt and land that has been maybe contaminated because of toxin, right? If you've studied
Right.
that. So maybe there's something to get, maybe a feasibility study, or just get a better understanding of the actual land, like with the environmental study. And then if it comes back clean, because most banks won't touch it if it doesn't pass even a phase 2. But if
Right.
it comes back clean, at that point you can get debt on it. Then it might make sense to actually go and try and take the deal down. That'd be my approach, at least.
All right, I appreciate it. I mean, it's just tremendous location, all that kind of stuff, but just was a little nervous about the detention type stuff. But that's good. I appreciate the
No, that's
feedback on
understood.
it.
And I would be a little concerned out of the gate too. But once you if you can get, especially a municipality on board, where they're whatever, if you're trying to develop a piece of dirt and developing is a whole different animal if you guys have done it. But most importantly, if you can get the municipality on board and have all the all the everything passed properly, going through the planning commission, everything like that, then you should be off to the races.
Yeah, this one wasn't really going to be doing any developing. It's more it's got a 10,500 square foot warehouse with the high ceilings, the six doors and stuff in it. It's
Oh yeah.
currently that type of space, but it just has in the back of it. The guy with the broker was sitting to tell me it would rent for basically $15 a square foot without the lay down yard, but with if you throw that in, it jumps it up to about $30
Dang.
a square foot, which I was like, wow, that
Wow.
is tremendous.
That's
Yeah, so
strong.
that's the reason I was looking at the extra little effort in there.
Well, that lay down yard too, and you probably have studied this as well. This is a good thought to know that outdoor storage, it's probably zoned specifically for outdoor. And when that happens, they just don't rezone property for more outdoor storage. So you basically have a monopoly on that particular zoning.
Hmm.
So you go and find a piece of dirt that's zoned for laydown yard or for outdoor industrial storage. That's awesome because they're just not going to make more of it. A
Right.
municipality is not going to go and say, "Hey, let's go rezone a piece of property that might be zoned for, multifamily and zone it for some laydown yard for an industrial building." It just
Hmm.
doesn't happen. So what you have right there, if the zoning is proper, I mean, take that thing down because you got something that's like a diamond in the rough.
No, that's great to hear. All
Yeah.
right, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I want to jump into this because I think this is a really cool thing for everyone to learn more about. I have on here tonight Brady Irwin. He's down in Texas, and he's got a really cool. Um, we only focus really in our group light industrial buildings, commercial property, triple net leases. Brady is doing something that's a little bit different that I'd like him to go into detail about tonight. He does mining. He does water, he does concrete, he does rock. I mean, I don't know his business, obviously, ins and outs like he does, but he's got something really, really cool and special that I was like, enough to where he introduced it to me. He's got a really cool deal in Texas tied up right now, 30 million bucks, that he's going to show us first how he kind of got into his business, how to underwrite a mining site, and then on top of it, how he got into this deal that he's looking at right now, negotiating terms and things like that, and then maybe mix in a little bit of your pro forma too. So again, thank you for making it on tonight, Brady. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Look forward to sharing a little bit about what I'm doing. So having the opportunity to sit here and meet you all and speak, on that is it's exciting. I kind of find myself in these roads of scratching my head on how I got here. I started out just a little bit of my background. I had a construction company. I started in 2014 down on the coast here in Texas. Started just by pressure washing and knocking doors for free. 2 years later, I was doing full commercial tenant swaps. Had 32 guys working for me. Wanted to move back home to Austin, so I did. I didn't understand marketing. I always tell everybody I was just a bad student and a horrible employee. So I've been through the school of hard knocks and have my teeth kicked in a couple of times. And so um, uh, I found real estate by accident on Indeed, wholesaling actually, residential. This was back whenever you can actually wholesale MLS deals on the residential side of things. And so made my first 20 grand, had no overhead, repositioned my business model, organically scaled from there. Uh, Multifamily syndications to raising capital, industrial, iOS. You guys were just talking about iOS. I'm looking at a deal right now in Houston. It's an iOS deal. I think those are cash cows right now. I think they're a hot commodity to get into. I think light industrial and everything that Nolan's doing is probably one of the strongest assets to get into because of the flexibility and the demand for it. But you know what? I ended up getting into land development 5 years ago. I've done a bunch of entitlements. It's kind of been our bread and butter of taking raw land with no improvements on it. I have no zoning. Some that sit in the ETJ outside of the city limits, and doing a value add or a facelift on them, cutting them up into lots, or going and getting the water permits, the wastewater permits, and dialing all that together into one. It takes some time to do it, but it can be lucrative when you do it right. And so I've been doing that primarily for the past 5 years. Business model changed about 18 months ago. I finished up my last infill multifamily project out in a town called Lakeway. And I ended up meeting a gentleman as I was raising some capital. The guy is in the mining space and he was looking for land to set up a batch plant. Batch plant essentially is where you take raw material, sand and gravel, to a mixer, and sand and gravel makes 71% of concrete. You take it to these batch plants and they add the aggregates and stuff to it. And then next thing you know, you have concrete. And I was like, well, actually, I have 50 acres right across the street from a mining company, and showed him the site. And he's like, man, if you can tie up another 300 acres to what you have right here, I can pay you a pretty handsome royalty, and you can make some good money here and nothing out of your pocket. So as being an Austin native and growing up in the country and having a farm and cows and all that stuff, I don't ride horses to work, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. Um, but I knew a bunch of the farmers and landowners just through, I mean, it's just a small world at the end of the day. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I think I can go tie up a bunch of land for you. And he's like, well, if you can help me expand into the Austin market, we're across three rivers right now. We're the Trinity River, the Brazos River, and the Colorado River, which is just outside of Austin. And just kind of put this into perspective, what really amazed me by this was any sort of large MSA that you guys go into, all of those buildings and concrete and the roads and stuff that you drive on, all of that came from the raw materials, the sand and gravel from the nearby rivers, which is actually pretty insane to think of. That everything that you drive on, everything that the buildings that you work in, all come from the riverbeds. And so, with that said, past, I'd say 12 months, I've been able to tie up conservatively about 4,000 acres of land that have north of about 70 million tons of sand and gravel. And our model has strictly been on a lease model. I get paid a royalty for every ton that comes out of the ground. So I look at it as a long-term vehicle. And that's at a high level, kind of the sand and gravel mining business that I've been in. And again, it's just come from transitioning from one idea to another and kind of shedding the skin of wanting to explore real estate even further. And I guess what I'm getting to is we look at deals where Nolan and you guys are primarily looking at deals in the industrial space. I think it was Jen that was talking about the zoning part of a deal that he's looking at in Charlotte, and taking it from that perspective of having a property that's got improvements on it and a property that doesn't have improvements on it. There's a million ways to make $1 million in it, and being able to go to a subsurface level underneath that and looking at that in a different way of mining, for example, the opportunities and possibilities are absolutely endless. And so I've kind of found myself in this space, and I think it's very lucrative. I think there's a lot of value that we provide to property owners. And that's kind of been my sandbox, pun intended, for the past, I'd say 12 months. I've done that, and I've got a platform that I'm launching too that is geared for off market. I've been an investor and developer since 2016, and I've always ran into the same issue of looking at trying to figure out, okay, well, who do I connect with? Do I go to LinkedIn? Do I go to Facebook? How do I underwrite these deals? Who do I go to, and like, who do I connect with? And so this is another topic I'll get into at some point, but I'm unifying a platform right now that I think would be ideal to not only Nolan, but you guys as well, a huge asset. So Nolan, I mean, from there, just kind of giving a high level, which direction should I go?
Yeah, no, that's great. The background on how you kind of got to where you are. I think I'd like to make you the host, if you don't mind, maybe just sharing like this newest deal that you're working on. Kind of give the background again on kind of not an extensive background, but you found this deal with this guy, the what's underneath the ground, how you're planning to extract it, what the focus is, what the cash flow looks like, and then maybe some of the metrics and ratios that you're using to actually underwrite the deal. Would that be good?
Yeah, we can do that.
And I'd say this too, if anybody else, like, if you're not opposed to it, Brady, if anybody has a question along the way, because I'll be candid, like, I'm learning about this pretty much at the same pace that you guys are. So I would say jump in if you're okay with that, Brady.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love questions. I can go down rabbit holes and we'll end up talking about, underwater BB stacking at some point.
Oh
And
my.
so, questions always, I like to be able to answer those.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting, man, just getting into this whole thing. Let me try to get my maps up real quick.
Yeah, like I said, you share your screen, kind of just go over this one of your more recent deals. Again, you can obviously blind out the addresses and locations if you like, but I just think it'd be
Sure.
cool to share, hey, this is another route. Not that to say that ours is the only way, which that's kind of been my strategy, but when you have people like Brady who's like on the ground and they've got strong, I mean, $1 million+ a year of cash flow after debt service, that's somewhat, enticing. That's eye-opening. So
Man, it's literally how you just said it there. It's just been absolutely incredible to see the potential there in the cash flow. There is not another piece of real estate or another model that I'm aware of, and I've done just about every transaction that performs as strong as this for a long-term play. I think Nolan, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Whenever you get in these deals, you usually want to get them stabilized, and you're usually looking to exit at maybe an 8-7 cap, within 3 to 5 years. Does that sound about right?
yeah, you want to exit, or if push comes to shove and you double the value of a piece of property, you want to refinance it, cash out your seller if he's financing some down payment. But yeah, if you can find something for $1 million and sell it and pop it at 2 after you've improved it, that's a good day.
Oh, 100%.
Hey Brady, I had a quick question off the bat.
Yeah.
To do the land deals and with the subsurface type stuff, do you really need to be besides some other kind of query or somebody that a company that's processing that material for you, or are you running into the point where you can actually ship it and have it trucked off to a different area?
That's a great question. So, at a high level, what I'm a landman. So
Right.
I ended up partnering with this gentleman out of Waco. He's got the largest grandfathered mining operation within the city limits. Waco is in the middle of the Golden Triangle. So think of Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. He's right there in the middle of that corridor. So he brings the entire operation. These guys will invest anywhere from $10 to $12 million of capital to get operations up and going. That includes a wash plant, everything to basically extract the sand and gravel, process it, which is washing and getting it clean, and then they sell that product as raw material to the open market. And those guys then take, it's usually like a river rock, to say anywhere from like a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch up to oversized, which is about 2 inches. They'll take that material, they'll break it down. They'll take the sand. There's a coarse sand and a very fine sand. Fine sand is probably something that you would find on like a Destin Beach, to say.
Right.
And then a coarse sand is something that you would find in probably like Myrtle Beach there. So they take all that, they mix it, they get this yield, and that's the product that kind of goes to market. So to kind of put it into perspective, they're selling that material in the market at about anywhere from $17 to $20 per ton. Whenever we get in there and we're extracting it, I think our operating costs are anywhere from $6 to $8 per ton. And then we pay a property owner $1.50 per ton for every ton that comes out of the ground and is sold.
Wow.
And then the landman and the other guys that I have, we all get a piece of that as well. So same time landowner gets paid, I get paid. I carry no risk or anything like that. Those guys take the risk. We've got proprietary technology that allows us to, we've identified about 275,000 acres across Texas. So it gives us an advantage there. And those guys,
So you're not actually owning the land. You're kind of, I
It's a
guess
lease.
the lease, right? Okay,
that's right.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lease. So how that works is it's called a, so you have, we have to basically educate the landowners. So
Right.
I'm sure you guys are all familiar with like mineral rights, right?
Yep.
Mineral rights start at 200 feet below the surface. Everything above 200 feet to the surface, so it's called 199 feet to the surface, is surface material. So whenever we mine for sand and gravel, you'll find those deposits anywhere from 1 to 2 feet, um, reaching all the way down to sometimes 60 to 65 feet of dirt you have to get out of the way in order to get to the sand and gravel. But there's a clear difference in it. Or what we're doing is we are tying up property on 50-year contracts. So we're going after land control. It gives us water rights. It's really big. It's what the Rothschilds did. It's what Bill Gates is actually doing right now. He's actually got property right across the river from us. Um, and we're doing 50-year material resource agreements. That gives us the option to start mining at any point in time whenever the property owner says that, hey, we're ready to start within that 50-year period. So it gives us a lot of control. We get the advantage of taking over a very competitive market, and it gives us longevity, and that helps our investors who fund us on the operating side of things with the plant and operations and stuff, and as well as having a good board of advisors who have done this for longer than I've been alive. So I'm still a green pea to the space. I just know land. I see the opportunity as post mining and going through the cash flow. There's an opportunity to then buy land 20 to 30 years down the road for the properties that we are mining, and then being able to go and develop these things out. So I call it a fluke. It's called a future land use control. So as we have these things tied up and we start mining these things out, as we'll do 25 to 30 acres a year, and we'll produce anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million tons of sand and gravel a year. So to put that into perspective, if we're selling these at a per ton basis, $17 a ton, let's say, and we're processing 1.5 million tons a year, that is, what's the number on that? That's $25 million a year in cash flow. That's gross operating revenue on top. We're probably looking at about, I'd probably say anywhere from 55 to maybe 65% operating expense is what I would call it, leaving about 35% of net cash flow for the next 20 years. And to put that into perspective, I've got roughly 70 million tons of sand and gravel across 4,000 acres I've been able to tie up. And I probably wouldn't even be alive until the time that we get, to the end of mining all that alone. And that's 4,000 acres out of the 270 something thousand acres that we have tied up. And so as we're building this out, there are strategic ways that in larger MSAs such as Austin, Waco, Dallas, and Houston, where these three rivers kind of run through, there's an indefinite run of upside with development. IOS comes into play. As we, again, mine 25 to 30 acres a year, we're actually able to, as we extract that sand and gravel, let's say if it's just 15 feet, sand and gravel, an acre, that volume, we bring in select fill dirt and we replace it. And then there's overburden, which is the dirt that we don't use. And we burn that up. But when we're all said and done, we can actually start putting in infrastructure, water, wastewater lines, start designating the land for residential, commercial, retail purposes, industrial outdoor storage yards, things like that, which is what really intrigued me in wanting to jump into this. And so with that, I've got a deal that I'd like to just kind of walk you guys through. This is the first one. And I brought this to Nolan because Nolan's very, very creative. He's a lot sharper than me when it comes to capital stacks and putting deals together and getting creative. At some point, it doesn't matter how good or how smart you are, you're always going to run into your incompetence level, and you need people around you that are strong and really understand the space, kind of give you a new perspective, which is why I brought it to Nolan. And Nolan, thanks again for bringing me on here. I'm just kind of going over this. But there's a deal that we're looking at right now. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Let me pull up my Google Earths.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. All right, how do I share this here?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
There it goes.
Do you guys see that?
says there it goes. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, good deal.
Perfect.
Um, so I have a buddy of mine. I don't know if you guys ever drink the or have heard of the C4 energy drinks.
Sure.
You guys ever heard of that? See it in the store. Anyways, he's a buddy of mine and he owns this property right here. This is right on the Brazos River. Bill Gates owns everything. This is about 2,000 acres right here. I'm just going to highlight this here. Kind of goes like this and follows the bend, comes around. So this is about 2,000 acres, and we've calculated to be about 35 million tons of sand and gravel. So what he's going to earn over the life of this mine, there's 35 million tons of sand and gravel on a conservative day, times $1.50 a ton. That property owner, on a lease basis, because he's not selling it to us, is going to earn north of $52 million. So if we're processing 1.5 million tons a year at $1.50, he's earning about $2.25 million a year. No, nothing out of his pocket. It's complete straight cash flow. Obviously, he'll have taxes on it. There's ag exemptions and stuff like that, that are in place to where he can still benefit from. But it still allows him to continue operating and running a ranch on his property, to continue hunting, because we're only using 30 acres a year, and then we backfill that. But you can see right here alone, there's a beach. All this is material, and you'll find these deposits on these rivers here in Texas. Back millions and millions of years ago, these rivers were a mile or two wide. And as evolution and Mother Nature did its course, these rivers started to drain and they started to flow differently. And so whenever you see these really big pockets or curves, we call them bows in the river bend, there's large deposits there that are there. And that's the material, the sand and gravel that we look for. So with that said, there's a property that had came up just through some networking. I mean, we call it the Burnside track. This gentleman is gone. He's a smart guy. He's a business guy. He's actually in the concrete business, but he spent about 400 grand on a report to go in and do digging, basically boring holes. And he did it over the period of 2 years, spent about $400,000 on the report, and determined that just in this section alone, this vegetated section, there's about 20 million tons of sand and gravel. The market value of 20 million tons of sand and gravel that would sell for in this market here at $17 a ton, that's about $340 billion. I went back through the report and I recalculated all the other boring logs that they had, and there's roughly about 41 million tons of sand and gravel here. So this has been probably one of the most challenging deals to put together, because the land is only worth $7,000 an acre. There's 1,153 acres, which puts it, I think, roughly about $8 million on it. And let me know if you guys can see this.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful property. I've seen a lot of farm and ranch properties. This guy is a madman. He went through and he did GPS leveling throughout the entire 1,100 acres here. So it is about as flat and as precise as you can get it. The other thing that he did is that he ran drip irrigation, meaning that these pump houses here that you can see, he can control the pH level on any square foot of his property, the 1,153 acres, just using his phone. It's absolutely insane. So very, fruitful soil. There's also what's made this really interesting too. Another reason why I brought it to Nolan was the oil and gas components of it. I think there's 11 wells right now, 3 more coming online. And I don't think it really produces any more than 100 grand a year. But the other big component is that the property produces, this one alone produces about 2.9 billion gallons of water annually. And in Texas and development, that's very, very valuable. That's worth anywhere alone from $7 to about $14 million in just value alone, just for the water rights. So when we're looking at this from an underwriting perspective, we start I just like to take it at a very high level of, if we have 35 million tons and we're actually able to process this 1.75 million tons a year, we break that math down to kind of give us a life of the mine. So if we have 35 million tons divided by the 1.75 million tons, that gives us about 17 years of mining operations. So what I've been able to do is put together a royalty agreement for the property owner, kind of outline this to him, and he really hasn't budged. So we've had to get creative in the sense of like, well, how do we do this? It's going to have to be some sort of seller financing deal. The sting terms that he gave us, guys basically want like 10 to $13 million down. And so in order for us to do that, we've got to be able to bring in an investor and to put together a capital stack like that to where there's enough royalties or let's say annual revenue from the mining operations to be able to provide an investor a 2x at minimum or 3x return, and then still having enough cash flow to take out the property owner within a 10 to 12 year time frame has been very difficult to do, because you can't really value land with the sand and gravel because it's not a commodity. If it was a commodity, it'd be a lot different story. But banks usually don't lend on things like this. So you have to get creative in the sense, knowing that there's roughly about $500 million worth of sand and gravel in the ground that you can go and sell. It gets pretty difficult on trying to get a seller to step off of his high horse and get realistic with the number. And so let's see here. I'm just kind of looking back through my notes. No, and what am I missing here? You're on mute.
I don't think you're missing anything. I think what I spoke with Brady about for everybody to know, we've been going back and forth on this for about 2 weeks, trying to just find a solution. And I think I distilled it down before I give my opinion. Does someone else have an opinion on like how they would or if it's worth pursuing? I like to hear if somebody else has an opinion. And I say this because I'm going to bait you guys. Brady mentioned that the guy won't come off his high horse, right? So I say that. What does that tell you when someone's not coming off their number?
They're not motivated.
They're not motivated. That's exactly what I said to Brady.
100%.
That they're not motivated. And it's like, I'm not saying that you can't do a deal. Brady knows what the intrinsic value of that property is. But until something happens to that dude where he's like, okay, I really do need to sell and I'm open to negotiating. Look, this is just my personal opinion because, I mean, Brady's a sharp cat. You guys can tell. I'm just like, I just don't have the desire to work with somebody or to do a deal with somebody that doesn't have any motivation. Because even when you go under contract, then he's not going to budge on any terms if something goes sideways, right? So that's my
100%.
in any real estate transaction. You're wanting to work with somebody that's got like somebody's divorcing, someone's dying, there's dissolution, right? There's something. And if this guy doesn't have a problem in the world right now, it's tough to negotiate with those guys. That's my opinion.
No, 100%. And I've been working this deal now for 3 or 4 months. Sat down with him. There's a mining operation next door, Texas Materials. I'm actually going out to a property on the Red River in Oklahoma and Texas border tomorrow to go show them. Those guys are huge. They have probably one of the largest operations here in Austin. They're actually one of our competitors, but I've been able to, bridge a relationship with them, and they can't even get a deal done. Those guys are probably $500 million to almost $1 billion company, have all the money and capital in the world, but numbers still don't make sense. And I think that kind of comes to, like, where do you want to put your time in at the end of the day? Even though there's substantial cash flow. Well, what's the low hanging fruit? Like, what's going to make the most sense? Because really, it's, your time is going to be worth more than anything else you're going to put into it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And this has been a learning experience for me, and I'm sharing this with you guys. Because like I don't like to give up. I'm like, okay, well, look, there's a problem, there's a solution here. There's got to be a way to do it. But if somebody is not willing to step off their terms, they're not desperate to sell. Well, you could sit there and actually miss out on opportunity costs, essentially what it comes down to. So being diversified, and I guess in my sense here of there's mining, there's some billboards, there's a platform, there's iOS, there's light industrial properties, stuff that you can go out, kind of having your hands in all of these pockets here are good, but being able to get really smart and fluent and streamlined into one, such as industrial, again, I think it's very, very valuable because having some sort of cash flow and building out a portfolio there with a group of people can go a long ways besides, chasing daisy chain deals, right? And hoping to find somebody and trying to bust a pinata out and maybe get lucky. But mining business is very fruitful. I mean, all the buildings and all the building construction material that are needed today, it's absolutely needed. And it's been a very interesting ride. So Nolan, I appreciate you kind of giving me the platform here to, speak a little high level on that. And hopefully everybody kind of retained a little something out of it. It's a lot. Try to streamline it, but yeah, hopefully you guys got something out of it.
No, 100. Go ahead. I was gonna ask if anybody had questions. Go ahead, Zane.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was wondering, Nolan, if you could like connect everybody with Brady in case he had any, if anybody else had questions that they want to ask privately, Brady, if you wouldn't be opposed to that.
I'll leave that up to Nolan. This is his show.
Yeah. I mean, I figure what we would do is we would just and before we go, I'd like you to kind of speak on your other your new app that you're working on, your tech business here with the off market deals. But what I'll do is we'll save this video, we'll upload it, and then I can send out Brady's information on our school, just his email and stuff like that. And if someone has interested in getting with him, then that's obviously more than welcome. I'd say if you're not opposed to that, Brady, yeah, Phil's.
I mean, yeah, no, as long as you're, want you to be a part of those conversations. It's yeah, I mean, honestly, the platform and what I'm building right now is perfect for that.
Tell us about that. Give us kind of the 30-foot view of like, because we're running up to our time here. Tell us about what exactly you're working on. And I'll say this, guys, the mining thing that Brady was just discussing is, to me, it's fascinating. I'm into this kind of stuff because we all got like a 404, master's course on that right there. This is also another thing that will pertain to all of us because we're all chasing that off-market deal, and Brady's working on something that will allow us to basically have a stand. We're in scoring position with this app versus battling at the plate just to get on base. So go ahead, Brady.
Yeah. So at a high level, I've been building out a full stack real estate off-market marketplace. And basically what that is I'll kind of just give you guys a glimpse of what this product looks like. Y'all are actually going to be the first ones. It's going to be a desktop and it's going to be a mobile version or app version on Google and the App Store. Been really excited about this, and I was speaking with Nolan about it. And essentially what I'm doing is building a nationwide off market. It's a marketplace to where developers, investors can come and connect. It's going to look very similar to a Facebook or LinkedIn. People would be able to come in here and create their own groups. There's forums. There'll be off-market deals here. These are just some placeholders that I've added. There's a user dashboard, a CRM built into it. There's a marketplace here that'll probably have the most robust data available on any platform that I've ever seen. The reason being is because I've got engineers that basically brought in the Samsung plant, which is the U.S. largest foreign investment, to build this thing out for me. If you guys aren't familiar with Land ID, this is Land ID right now, but you would essentially be able to come in here and find off-market deals. You'll be able to see what kind of wastewater or water lines, transmission lines. We're 50% through the product right now. I'm hoping to be launched here in the next 60 to 90 days. But this is going to be a tool to where you guys would be able to find off-market deals, connect with other professionals, meet brokers, developers, all on your own terms, be able to submit your own deals in front of thousands and thousands of investors and developers looking for good off-market opportunities. Again, it's going to be very data-packed and enriched with a bunch of different layers. It's going to be really, really cool. And then, there's a deal room factor to it as well. To where you can come in and post these deals. And these are just kind of like different paywalls and stuff. But the main component is I basically want to change the way that people connect, discover, and transact. Today you guys probably use Facebook groups, LinkedIn. You may find deals on TikTok, brokers, agents, Craigslist. I found deals on Craigslist before. But what I'm getting to is there's a really fragmented market. There's three components to it. You have a marketplace, you have a capital, I call it social capital, so you're networking. Then you have data. Most platforms have 1 to 2 of those layers. There's not one that has all three, specifically for off-market deals. If you guys go look on Zillow, those are all on-market deals, which I'm sure you guys are not looking there. Y'all go look on either LoopNet or CoStar. You may find some good deals, but if they're posted on there, a lot of investors that brokers had those deals and put it in front of already passed on. So they go to the market where it then becomes a retail product. So this here is basically to be the prerequisite and the domain for all off-market deals starting here in Texas, and we're going to span nationwide. And I'd be happy to build a page out and a group out for everybody to kind of take part of and be a part of something cool that's I believe is going to be very successful.
Dude, that's awesome. This is like really this is cool. Yeah, this is like really like high functioning, like very intuitive. That's awesome.
Yeah. We're going to have all of my private my private capital guys a part of this as well. And everybody's going to have a profile. Again, it's if you're familiar with Facebook, which I'm sure you guys are, LinkedIn, identical to that.
Cool.
So,
Okay.
Brady, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, Brady, I was going to ask, is this in terms of off-market deals fine, just connecting people together, or is it also bringing in the data aspect of the land, kind of like a Onyx Hunt or whatever, where you can actually pull up the property, the boundaries, you can actually see the owner of the property, possibly even find out how long that owner's kind of been there, owned that property, and there's tons and tons of data that would just be so nice to kind of pull it into one thing. Even being able to pull up the zoning of the various land pieces and stuff that are around there.
You nailed it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. You nailed it. Yeah, I think, man, like I started in 16. I've been through just about every part of this.
Right.
So I'm taking all the things that I have to go look through multiple different tools. I have to go to different counties and define and hope to find that the county engineers actually updated their infrastructure. So I'm talking, it's basically going to have to where you can actually contact the property owners. You can contact the banks. You'll be able to see all the property transactions, the history, environmental layers, zoning,
the last sales dates and
layers.
stuff, and when it occurred.
Exactly.
That's tremendous. My wife's actually a commercial appraiser and stuff, and we do all that kind of stuff, looking things up manually and checking at the various zoning levels and stuff. But even having that, it could possibly even be a different market for you too, if you're pulling in all the data into one central location.
100%. And that's the biggest goal here. And one of the main drivers behind the social capital of it is just really like, how do we like reconnect users to where we're all part of one platform? LinkedIn is made for professionals. That's where people go to find jobs. Think of how LinkedIn revolutionized the way that Indeed was. All LinkedIn did was create a social layer. Now think of like, let's say LoopNet or Crexi did that. Those guys are still missing it. CoStar, massive data group. Those guys are still missing it. So it's all about like taking like all the issues and problems that I've had, like how do you productize that to make it a lot more efficient and unified for everybody? The mapping is the biggest component to it, because you'll be able to find absolutely everything that you would ever want to see on there, including comps, you name it.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's tremendous.
So
yeah, I want to say something. You guys know that Mike and I own Vitalizer. It's an AI-powered app where we can go. If anybody can go and ask a specialized AI question about your health, fitness, and wellness, stuff like that. So we own the WebVantage, and when I'm listening to you right now, I said, okay, you are solving a huge problem here. You are solving a huge problem. If this problem can be solved, not just through going to those, government or cities, if this problem can be solved through through a specialized AI on the field, building a platform like that will solve a huge problem. And wherever you solve a problem, money will come to you. I can tell you that. So I'm a web developer, and then I support that. What you do. Yeah.
That's good to know. That's great to hear.
No, that is great to hear. And AI is a big driver of it that we're trying to figure out how to integrate into it. I'd love to, kind of get an idea of what you guys are doing. Maybe there's some more information there where you guys can help us out. So,
Oh, yes, for sure, for sure. In the AI field, that this is what we do.
yeah,
I
that's
love
awesome.
that. Let's do this, guys, because we're coming up kind of to our end of our hour here. So I want to thank you, Brady, for making the time tonight. I mean, I thought I'm blown away by just kind of all the information and just the knowledge you got and what you're building and creating. What I think we should really do is, like I said, I'll get with you kind of offline, Brady, but I would like to hear everyone's kind of feedback, like, on school once when I post this video again, for if people would like to rewatch it. But I think the best thing that we can do is, after I get with Brady, is let's find a way to execute and to be on the ground. I mean, imagine all of us having access to this information, how much more accurate and calculated we can be with our offers and actually execute and purchase real estate that are literally off market. Like what Brady said, that's the whole point, So it gives us a leg up compared to all those other idiots that are trying to broker buildings by cold calling, that kind of thing. So does that sound good, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
No, I appreciate it again. And guys, I appreciate you guys just taking the time to hear me out. Look forward to possibly sitting down and talking again. So
yes,
let me know how I can help.
And Brady, before you leave, so your platform or like a SendNet, so you have it on the Apple, or where you get it for where we can check it out?
So it's not, we're halfway through our MVP. So minimal viable product. We'll be going through our beta here very, very soon. But it will be available on the App Store and the Google Store as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're here for you. You know that AI is from Montreal. I am a Canadian, so we'll be here for you. So whatever you need in terms of AI, a specialized AI agent, it will be there for you.
AI is past my pay grade, man. I'm just a sand and gravel dude with a pipe dream on building a marketplace.
No, that's really interesting. As soon as you mentioned that, I said, "Hey, that's how it felt."
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to get you guys excited, because I know that people would want to use it, and I think it'd be a huge tool. And so having you guys as kind of like some of the founding users of the platform, man, could really help shape this thing to become ultimately what it actually needs to be. So I think that's what's really exciting about it.
All right.
That's great. That's awesome. Brady, thank you again, man, for making it this evening. And I want to thank all of you guys that spent this evening with us too. I'll upload this so we can rewatch it or share it with really your pals or whatever, because I think this could be a really cool thing for all of us on the ground like this as kind of time goes forward. So I'll upload this. I'll have Brady's information out there, and then if anything else, we'll just find ways to all of us to be together like that. Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right, everyone.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
call this evening. Thanks so much for making it, everyone. Talk to you guys
Thanks, Nolan.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everyone.
it.